Padawan to the Jedi Master Luminara Unduli, Barriss Offee began to grow further apart from the Jedi as the Clone Wars drew to an inevitable close. Barriss, like many of the civilians in the galaxy, fervently believed that the Jedi were deviating from their roles of peacekeepers and were turning into political soldiers. To show her disapproval, she organised a bombing in the Jedi Temple hangar with the help of Letta Thurmond, using nano droids and Thurmond's husband Jackar to detonate the area. Grandmaster Yoda immediately recalled Jedi Knight Anakin Skywalker and his Padawan Ahsoka Tano from Cato Neimoidia. Their investigation would lead them to the arresting of Letta, and the case was seemingly finished. However, Letta's mysterious killing soon led to Ahsoka being framed by Barriss for the bombing, and as a result of the lack of trust from the Jedi, led to her leaving the Order. But what if instead it was Anakin who had been framed for the bombing of the Jedi Temple? How would the Jedi balance their duty to the Republic with their trust in Anakin? Would he take the same path as his Padawan? All of the answers are to be revealed. Walking through the prison corridors with Commander Fox and a select group of clones, Anakin was intrigued as to why Letta had personally requested for an interview. Although he had asked Ahsoka to perform the interrogation, she was reluctant, so opted to go himself instead. Heading through the layers of ray shields, Anakin sensed something was off. Handing over his lightsaber to Commander Fox, he entered the cell. Anakin began his interview before she dropped to the floor. Looking for its source, he found nothing. The clones outside had seen the disturbance and pointed their blasters towards Anakin. Before he could react, he was hit with a stun blast. Waking up in his cell hours later, Anakin began to meditate, wondering what he should do next. Suddenly, the door opened with a click, and Anakin opened his eyes, seeing Obi-Wan Kenobi. Anakin began to reveal his suspicions as to the suspect framing him, and now it was down to Obi-Wan and Ahsoka to find the culprit, before the Council could get to him. Leaving the prison complex, Ahsoka attempts to contact Barriss, but she was nowhere to be found. Obi-Wan thought this to be bizarre. Heading for her Padawan quarters, Ahsoka knocks, but there is no response. Sliding the door open with the Force, they gingerly walk in, more out of curiosity than suspicion. Stepping into the room, they hear two lightsabers ignite. Obi-Wan and Ahsoka immediately react to the noise, and ignite their own. Out of the shadowed back area of Barriss' room, emerged a masked figure. Ahsoka wastes little time, and engages the figure with fierce attacks. Ahsoka is able to recognise the lightsabers as belonging to Asajj Ventress, but the fighting style was different. Getting the upper hand, Ahsoka tried to cut through the figure's mask, but they acrobatically leapt out of the window into a large open area. Obi-Wan is the first to the scene, stopping the attacker with an outstretched hand, causing them to drop their lightsabers. Ahsoka then leapt from a nearby platform and ripped the mask off, revealing Barriss Offee. Ahsoka stood in shock at whom she thought was an ally and a friend, looking at her with no emotion. Two temple guards are quick to apprehend Barriss and take her to a holding cell, leaving Obi-Wan and Ahsoka to go and free Anakin. A frustrated Anakin cannot wait to be out of his cell, and the trio make their way to the Jedi Council chamber. Standing in the centre of the room, the other council members are deeply apologetic of their capture of Anakin, an apology which wouldn't have been so easily accepted had Ahsoka and Obi-Wan not captured Barriss. Nonetheless, Anakin's faith in the Jedi Order is shaken. Moving into the Chamber of Judgment, Barriss is expelled from the Jedi Order, but not before she states that the Jedi Order lost their way. With Barriss' fate now in the hands of the Republic, Ahsoka is knighted for her efforts, helping to appease Anakin. However, the betrayal of Barriss has an adverse effect on Ahsoka, who, like Anakin, begins to move away from the Jedi. Back in the Council Chamber, the last words of Barriss have seeped their way into the minds of the Masters. The near loss of Anakin have forced them to hold an emergency meeting. Had they been going down the wrong path? Had they been sucked into the trappings of politics? After the entire council meditated, they began to agree with what Barriss had said. The problem was, how would they get out of the war? Moving away from the Senate would be a near impossible task. Heading to Chancellor Palpatine's office for a potential compromise, Mace Windu, Yoda and Obi-Wan began to discuss this issue with the Chancellor. The Chancellor was deeply concerned, but did not show it. This could ruin his entire plan for exterminating the Jedi. He needed to act quickly, even if it meant not having his prized apprentice. Sending the Jedi back to the temple, the Sith Lord pulled over his hood and communicated with his apprentice. Dooku was less concerned, but like his master, did not show his emotions. The revelation by the Jedi could play perfectly into his hands. Nonetheless, Dooku agreed to Sidious's plans to initiate Order 66, as it would provide him with the chaos necessary to do his damage. Closing the hologram, Sidious proudly ordered the execution of Order 66. Looking outside of his office, clone troopers begin to rush into the Jedi Temple from all alleyways to head for their targets. Inside, the Jedi Temple guards are taken by surprise, falling to the floor, causing the other Jedi to sound the interior alarm. From the meditation chambers to the Padawan quarters, all Jedi emerged with their blades wielded, wondering what the commotion was all about. Watching in horror as their comrades fell, they steadied themselves with a barrage of fire. Above them, all of the council members leapt down from their tower, sensing the grave danger they were in, and using a combined force wave, pushed the clones out of the building. However, they knew this would not be the only attack. They needed to get to the root of the problem. Amongst the Jedi Masters, the bearded Obi-Wan Kenobi's usually calm demeanour was evaporating with each passing moment. What had happened to the brothers he had fought alongside? Remembering back to the conversation he had with Dooku on Geonosis, the Sith Lord had revealed that Darth Sidious was controlling the Senate. But who was he? The more immediate problem was the relentless attacks from the clones, and perhaps they could hold the key. There must have been a malfunction in their programming. Finding Shaak Ti nearby, they decide to take a massive risk and head off to Kamino. Their journey is full of danger, having to dodge all of the clones from above, but having anticipated this, the two Jedi make it through to the storm-laden planet. Approaching the landing platform, they find the usual docking area has now been occupied. They are not alone. Striding through the already open doorway, the two Jedi prepare themselves for the inevitable resistance. Using their stealth to dispel any stationed clone troopers, they make their way to the core of the cloning facility. They are greeted by the sound of clattering of mechanical limbs. Unsurprisingly, it is Obi-Wan's old foe General Grievous, guarding what they were looking for. Obi-Wan sensibly backed off, allowing Shaak Ti to skirt around the sides. Unlike the surroundings in their previous duels, the high ceiling and wide area allowed for Obi-Wan's array of force powers to be utilised. Also, without any distractions of droids or battle strategy to account for, Obi-Wan's true dueling ability shone through. Perfectly deflecting the cyborg's patterned attacks, he force-pushed Grievous into a nearby chip examination contraption, forcing the Jedi killer to assume his four-legged form. Behind them, Shaak Ti was doing a thorough examination of the cloning process, from its embryonic stage to its final stage. Darting to a secondary room, Master T sees a holotable with the Kaminoan Prime Minister Lama Su slumped over the top. Shifting the body to the side of the room, the Jedi Master begins to look through some of the recordings. She is shocked to see the continual transmissions between Sidious and Lama Su discussing the process, and the oblivious Jedi. Scrolling through to the latest transmission, she found Lama Su being force-choked to her demise, but not before Sidious announced the execution of Contingency Order 66. As Obi-Wan had said, this had to have activated something inside the mind of the clones. Heading back to the main facility, Obi-Wan is making good headway against Grievous, having disarmed two of his blades, allowing for Master T to focus on reversing Order 66. With the help of a nearby astromech droid, she decrypts the database and sees the list of orders. Her worst fears are realised when Chancellor Palpatine's name is attached to Order 66. Hearing the sound of footsteps of dozens of clones heading their way, Shaak Ti quickly deactivates the inhibitor chip, stopping the footsteps immediately, and to her relief, she turns around to see Obi-Wan standing next to the remains of General Grievous. Casually dusting himself off, he gathers the General's impressive collection of lightsabers, before attempting to relay a message to Coruscant. The weathered face of Grandmaster Yoda appeared, looking happy to see the Jedi. He had watched so many fall at the Jedi Temple. With the chips now deactivated, the temple was quiet, with many of the clones returning back to their usual positions. But there was still the matter of the Sith. The tireless and dedicated Jedi that Obi-Wan was, he does not stay in Kamino for long, heading back to Coruscant and leaving Shaak Ti to protect the Kamino facility. However, midway through his flight, Obi-Wan sees another ship on his navigation computer. Suspicious, Obi-Wan went into an asteroid field, ducking and weaving his way through before resting on a rock. Behind him, the bright lights revealed the solar sailor of Dooku. Obi-Wan zooms back off into space, attempting to shake off the Sith Lord, but Dooku sticks to his tail. Calling some nearby clones to distract the Sith Lord, they obey Obi-Wan's command, allowing for his passage to Coruscant. But he needed to be quick. Dooku would have surely been notified of Grievous's fall by now, and Shaak Ti would be vulnerable. Shifting several groups of clones to reinforce Kamino, Obi-Wan made it to Coruscant in time to see the Jedi Temple smouldering. Sliding into the Jedi Temple hangar, the canopy to his starfighter flew open, and Obi-Wan leapt out, lightsaber in hand. Scaling down to the bottom, he is distressed to find several Jedi Masters on the floor. Darth Sidious was making his mark. Running through the screams of pain, he could see lightsabers clashing furiously, and rushed to join in spite of his exhaustion from fighting Grievous. Combining with Windu and Yoda to take down Sidious, Obi-Wan sent Anakin and Ahsoka, with defending from some of Sidious's personal forces, to Kamino to protect Shaak Ti, in case the clones were not sufficient. Anakin and Ahsoka made a dash through the ruins, and scrambled their way to the first ship they could find, hoping that Obi-Wan and the Jedi could succeed. On their way, they attempt to communicate with the clones on Kamino through R2-D2, but even by boosting their signal range, no transmission was returned. This did nothing to boost their mood as they reached the ever-gloomy Kamino. Flying close to the waves and beneath the stilts of the raised areas, the scene could only be described as chaos. Dooku had brought his own reinforcements in to counter the clones, from aqua droids to battle droids to droidicas. They outnumbered the defences of Kamino. Stopping by one of the stilts, they each jump on an aqua droid, piercing their blades through their cores, before leaping to the surface. Blindsiding what remained of the CIS, Anakin and Ahsoka helped to take down the droids with the clones, with Anakin heading to the facility centre in pursuit of Dooku. Blasting his way through the droids and clones, he sees Dooku dueling with Shaak Ti. Shaak Ti is valiant in her attacks, using a combination of Form 2 and some Form 4 to counter the legendary duelist. Anakin jumps in to block a force-lightning attack from Dooku, repelling it onto a nearby machine, sending sparks in all directions. Having learned from their previous duels, Anakin had practiced intensely with Obi-Wan to make sure he didn't repeat the same mistakes. Closing all of the doors with the Force, Anakin began to play to his strengths, using his power to try and overwhelm Dooku's efficient strikes. Anakin saw Dooku's face begin to turn from one of glee to concern. Rolling to one side, Dooku summons several battle droids from above, but Master T deals with these in a matter of moments. Anakin uses their severed parts and launches them back to Dooku, but the Sith elegantly sidestep the attacks. Engaged in another blade lock, Anakin finally found a small weakness in the tiring Sith Lord's defences and disarmed him, slicing both of his wrists. Anakin reopened the doors and the clones rush in, sensing the situation and cuff the Sith Lord. Heading back outside, Ahsoka and the clones are cleaning up the last of the droids, who look lost without their leader. Trying to relay news of their success to Coruscant, Anakin sees the blurred figure of an exhausted Obi-Wan, who had poured all of his energy with the Jedi to take down the Chancellor. Giving his master some much needed rest, Anakin slid down to his ship with Ahsoka and took off through the storm clouds. Perhaps being framed by Barriss Offee had been a blessing after all. That is it for What If Anakin was framed for the bombing of the Jedi Temple. If you enjoyed this, please like this video, and if you're new to this channel and my other channel, subscribe for more What Ifs. And as always, leave a comment on what if you'd like to see next, and how I can improve my videos. Thank you very much for watching, and see you next time.